We're live from New Delhi. You're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Lipakshi Khurana. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. Israel admits killing of Hamas leader Haniyeh in Iran for first time, while Netanyahu reports progress on captive deal but offers no timeline. Amidst reeling from months of political turmoil, France unveils fresh government with budget battle looming. India's External Affairs Minister Dr. Jaishankar to visit US to discuss key bilateral, regional and global issues with counterparts. Hawaii's Kilauea volcano, one of the world's most active volcanoes, sprang into life again, spewing columns of lava. And in sports, Indian women's cricket team will take on West Indies in the second ODI on Tuesday. Host lead 3-match series 1-0. On to the details now. For the first time, Israeli Defense Minister Israel Katz has publicly acknowledged the assassination of Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh in Iran in July. The move might escalate tensions between Tehran and Israel in a region already rocked by Israel's conflict with Hamas and Hezbollah. Warning Houthi, Katz also said that Israeli troops would also decapitate the leadership of Houthi rebels. Until now, Israel had never admitted to killing Haniyeh, but Iran and Hamas had blamed it for the Hamas political leader's death. Haniyeh was killed in a guest house in Tehran on July 31st. Israel has also allegedly killed Nasrallah in a Beirut bombing on September 27th, which was followed by the killing of Haniyeh's successor Sinwar on October 16th.
These days, when the Houthi terrorist organization is firing missiles at Israel, I want to convey a clear message to them at the beginning of my remarks. We have defeated Hamas, we have won over Hezbollah, we have blinded Iran's defense systems and damaged the production systems, we have toppled the Assad regime in Syria, we have dealt a severe blow to the axis of evil, and we will also deal a severe blow to the Houthi terrorist organization in Yemen, which remains the last to stand and fire at Israel. We will damage its strategic infrastructure and we will behead its leaders, just as we did to Haniyeh, Sinwar, and Nasrallah in Tehran, Gaza, and Lebanon. We will do it in Hodeidah and Sana'a. Whoever will raise his hand to Israel, his hand will be severed. The IDF's long arm will harm him and will settle the score.
Well, meanwhile, in the ongoing hostage talks with Hamas, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu stated on Monday that a certain progress had been achieved, but he did not specify how long it would take to see the results. During a speech in Israel's Knesset, Netanyahu said that Israel had made great achievements militarily on several fronts and that military pressure on Hamas had led its leaders to soften their previous demands. In recent days, indirect negotiations between Israel and Hamas, mediated by Qatar, Egypt and the United States, took place in Doha, rekindling hope of an agreement that has proven elusive.
I want to tell you cautiously that there is a certain progress, and this certain progress is due to three main reasons. There is progress, I don't know how long it will take. We will continue to operate in any way and without a pause until we bring them all back home from the enemy's land. We do not take our eyes off Iran, that is threatening to eliminate us. And we are determined to stop Iran from reaching nuclear weapon as well as other weapons that could threaten our cities.
Well, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has criticized the world leaders for doing almost nothing to counteract Russia's military cooperation with North Korea, which is sending troops and equipment to help Moscow. Kyiv continues to press allies for a tougher response, as it says Moscow's and Pyongyang's transfer of warfare experience and military technologies constitute a global threat. Meanwhile, Zelensky said over 3,000 North Korean soldiers have been killed and wounded in Russia's Kursk region and warned that Pyongyang could send more personnel and equipment for Moscow's army. North Korea has, however, put the figure at much less, saying 1,100 North Korean troops had been killed or wounded so far in the conflict. Russia has neither confirmed nor denied the presence of North Koreans on its side. According to the Ukrainian and allied assessments, North Korea has sent around 12,000 troops to Russia. Well, a Russian delegation met Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian in Tehran on Monday as the two countries prepared to sign a comprehensive cooperation agreement. The deal, however, was set to be signed during a bilateral visit in January. Russia has cultivated closer ties with Iran and other countries hostile towards the United States, such as North Korea, since the start of the Ukraine conflict. The country's foreign minister, Sergei Lavrov, said in October that Moscow and Tehran intended to sign a deal which would include closer defense cooperation. And France's Macron unveiled a new government on Monday in the hope his administration can see off another vote of no confidence from a bitterly divided parliament. Country's fourth government since the beginning of the year comprised of former ministers and senior civil servants. Former Interior Minister Gerald Darmanin has been appointed Justice Minister. The former Prime Minister Elizabeth Borne, a technocrat, returns to the government as Education Secretary, while another former Prime Minister, Manuel Valls, who served under the Socialist President Francois Hollande, has been appointed Overseas Minister. John Noel Barrett will remain as Foreign Secretary, while the right-winger Bruno Retailleau has been reappointed Interior Minister. Eric Lombard, a former banker, will head up the Economy Ministry, while Sebastian Lecornu stays on in the Defence Ministry and Rachida Dati as the Culture Minister. Well, one of the government's first tasks, led by Francois Bayrou, appointed by Emmanuel Macron 10 days ago, would be to draw up a 2025 budget bill and reduce budget deficit, which is expected to reach 6% GDP by the end of the year, well above the 3% of GDP the European Union requires of member states. With the new government in place, Bayrou said his picks would steer the country towards unity and stability and would provide answers to the citizens gripped by worry and fears of insecurity.
I will do everything I can so that we move from the situation of a country divided, exploded, fragmented, torn apart to a country where we can perhaps come together to solve the country's problems. And I demonstrate it in government, I demonstrate it, I hope, in the way I approach problems.
Pour résoudre les problèmes du pays.
Well, Venezuelan government to free over 223 people arrested over election protest months ago during protest following the July 2024 elections protest, bringing the total number of people freed since the unrest began in 1956. Protest and unrest erupted in Venezuela after the July 2024 elections, which saw President Nicolas Maduro securing a controversial third term. While Maduro's government, along with the country's electoral authorities and Supreme Court, has officially declared him the winner, the opposition remains skeptical. Opposition groups have pointed to what they describe as irregularities during the election process and released their own tally of votes, which they claim shows a sweeping victory for their candidate, Maria Corina Machado. And Mozambique's highest court confirmed the ruling party Frelimo's victory on Monday in a disputed October vote after allegations of rigging triggered weeks of deadly street clashes. Fears are high in the country and abroad that more violence could break out in the southern African nation after the opposition threatened to call an uprising following the decision. The United States called for calm after the Constitutional Court said the ruling Frelimo Party presidential candidate Daniel Chapo secured 65% of the vote, revising down provincial results from the Electoral Commission, which said he got nearly 71%. Well, after the election results were released, Mozambique has been gripped by violent clashes all over. The ruling party, Frelimo's victory, has sparked a massive protest by opposition groups who say the vote was rigged. At least 130 people have been killed in clashes with the police, according to the civil society monitoring group Plataforma Decide. Outside the conference centre in the capital, Maputo, where a senior constitutional council judge announced that Frelimo's Daniel Chapo was president-elect, and the party had retained its majority in parliament, the streets were deserted amid heavy police presence. However, footage on local broadcaster TV Sukeso Moors showed protesters had taken to the streets in the northern city of Nakala Porto within an hour of the announcement and in other areas of the capital. Well, Albanian opposition leader Sali Berisha has taken to the streets of the capital, Tirana, on Monday to protest against the current government over a month after being released from house arrest. Minor scuffles between protesters and police occurred in at least 2 locations. Berisha said he was demanding the establishment of a caretaker government before the regular parliamentary election scheduled for May 11th. The 80-year-old Berisha was indicted in September on charges of using his influence during his first term as Prime Minister from 2005 to 2009 to help his son-in-law secure a lucrative construction contract. Berisha denies the charges, claiming they are part of a political vendetta against him by the ruling party. Well, a trial for the man accused of a second assassination attempt on President-elect Trump was delayed until next year by a federal judge in Florida on Monday. Lawyers for the suspect, Ryan Routh, sought a delay of the scheduled February 10th trial date, citing the large volume of evidence in the case. Florida-based U.S. District Judge Eileen Cannon agreed to the delay but called the defense request for a postponement until December 2025 excessive. Cannon scheduled the case to go before a jury beginning September 8, 2025. Routh is facing 5 federal charges, including attempted assassination of a major presidential candidate. Routh has pleaded not guilty. Well, the suspect accused of killing United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson has pleaded not guilty to New York State murder and terrorism charges. Luigi Mangione appeared in court on Monday to be arraigned on 11 state criminal counts, including first-degree murder and murder as a crime of terrorism. He's also accused of federal stalking and murder offenses that could lead to a death penalty sentence. Prosecutors have said the federal and state cases will move forward parallel with one another. If convicted of all the counts, he would face a mandatory sentence of life in prison without the possibility of parole. The suspect is currently in federal custody at the Metropolitan Detention Center. Also, Brooklyn, after being returned to New York amid heavy security last week. Well, a 33-year-old Guatemalan citizen was charged with murder and arson on Monday after allegedly lighting a woman on fire and watching her burn to death on a New York City subway train over the weekend. Sebastian Zapata was arrested after 6 hours after police said he used a lighter to ignite the clothes of a woman who appeared to be dozing at the Coney Island Stillwell Avenue subway station in Brooklyn. Police said there appeared to have been no prior interaction between the assailant and the victim, who's not been identified. Zapata is in custody and it was not immediately clear if he had a lawyer. Well, one of the world's most active volcanoes sprang into life again on Monday, spewing columns of lava to 60 feet above. This latest eruption was accompanied by intense seismic activity, with the lava flows moving down the slopes of the mountain, illuminating the night sky, forcing local authorities to issue warnings for people to stay indoors due to the risk of ash inhalation and falling debris. Efforts to monitor and predict volcanic activity are ongoing as experts continue to study the dynamics of one of the most active volcanoes on Earth. And still to come in this edition of DD India Live. 24 December is National Consumer Day, highlighting consumer rights. Renowned Indian filmmaker Shyam Benegal passes away at 90. He was conferred the Padma Shri in 1976 and the Padma Bhushan in 1991. And Dubai shines as a magical Christmas wonderland, blending global traditions with unique desert charm. Welcome back. You're watching DD India Live. I'm Lipakshi Khurana, and moving on, India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar will visit the US from 24th to 29th of December. Minister Jaishankar will meet US officials to discuss bilateral, regional and global issues. During the visit, the minister will also chair a conference of the Consul General of India in the US. Well, 24 December is being observed as the National Consumer Day across the country. The theme of this year's edition of National Consumer Day is virtual hearings and digital access to consumer justice. In India, the Consumer Protection Act 1986 grants every citizen the rights to protect their interest and take remedial steps against any kind of exploitation by sellers, traders and big brands. National Consumer Day is an apt occasion to highlight the need for fighting against the issues like overpricing, adulteration and misleading advertising. While key figure of the Indian parallel cinema, veteran director and screenwriter Shyam Benegal passed away at the age of 90 on Monday. Shyam Benegal breathed his last at a Mumbai hospital where he was undergoing treatment for chronic kidney disease. He was a recipient of several awards, including Dada Saheb Phalke Award, National Film Awards, Padma Shri and Padma Bhushan, for his outstanding contributions to the field of arts during a career spanning around 6 decades. His acclaimed films include Manthan, Zubeda and Sardari Begum. Blessed with boundless creative energy, he reinvented himself as a director at different stages of his career. He also experimented with different themes, subjects and formats and made over 20 feature films, 70 documentaries and short films. What is remarkable is that most of his work stood the test of time and remains relevant even today. And now let's take a look at other stories making news today. A fresh spell of heavy snowfall in India's Manali town left several vehicles stuck and tourists stranded in their vehicle for hours. Around 1,000 vehicles were stuck in a long traffic jam between Solang and Atal Tunnel, Rohtang. This prompted the police to launch a rescue operation and shift around 700 tourists to safer places. The influx of tourists arriving to celebrate Christmas and New Year in the snow-covered mountains seems to have added to the situation. Pre-celebrations for Christmas festivities are in full swing in India. On the occasion, the 50th annual cake show was organized at the palace grounds in Bengaluru city. Cakes in the shape Nada Prabhu, Kempe Gowda were some of the highlights, among other very creative and intricate shapes. Meanwhile, Christmas decorations in India's southern state of Karnataka illuminated the streets. Many churches were seen all decked up with intricate lights for the festivities. And on to some business news now. India's economy is surging ahead with exports rising and inflation easing. In the first part of 2024, total exports reached $536 billion, driven by sectors such as electronics, engineering goods and textiles. With these gains, Indians are also benefiting as inflation drops to a 3-month low, driven by falling food prices. DD India's Mihir Maikuri reports for more.
India's economy is on a fast track with exports rising and inflation easing. The country now exports to over 200 nations and territories covering 31 key commodities. From April to November 2024, India's total exports stands at $536.25 billion, reflecting a growth of 7.61% compared to last year. Non-petroleum exports have also surged, reaching $239.7 billion, up 7.38% from 2023. Surpassing the previous record of $233 billion set in 2022. Key sectors driving this growth include electronic goods, engineering products, rice, marine exports, and textiles. This economic growth is also benefiting ordinary Indians. In November, the wholesale price index dropped to a 3-month low of 1.89%, primarily due to falling food prices, especially vegetables. As 2024 comes to a close, it marks a decade since the launch of Prime Minister Modi's landmark Make in India initiative. Aimed at strengthening India's manufacturing sector, it has created jobs and enhanced the country's global economic standing. Now, in its Make in India 2.0 phase, covering 27 sectors, the initiative continues to drive growth and cement India's role as a global manufacturing powerhouse. India has also reached a major milestone, becoming the world's second-largest mobile manufacturer, producing 99.2% of the smartphones sold domestically. In defense, production surged to $15.12 billion in 2023-24, with exports crossing $2.5 billion to over 90 countries. The production-linked incentive scheme remains a key catalyst for these successes, fueling innovation and efficiency across critical industries. Together, these efforts are transforming India into a global economic powerhouse, creating jobs, enhancing competitiveness, and strengthening its position in the world market. The future looks bright as India continues to lead the way in global manufacturing and exports. Mihir Makori's report, DD India.
And on to some sports news now. Coming on the back of a huge win in the series opener, India will be wary of complacency as it is all set for the second women's ODI against the West Indies in Vadodara on Tuesday. Shrugging off the disappointment of an ODI series defeat in Australia earlier this month, the women in blue has had a memorable outing over the last few days. The side convincingly clinched the T20 International Series against the West Indies following Dubai a dominating performance in the first ODI with a massive 211-run win. And it will hope to keep the momentum going. Keeping next year's ODI World Cup in mind, India has experimented quite a bit by handing debuts to Priya Mishra and Pratika Rawal, and both have delivered. Leading up to the ICC event next year, the home team will be hoping to create a pool of younger talents. And the BCCI has confirmed that Mohammad Shami is unfit for the remaining 2 tests of the Border Gavaskar Trophy against Australia because of a minor swelling on his left knee. Following the evacuation by the BCCI medical team, it was established that additional time is necessary to manage the bowling workload on his knee. As a result, Shami has been declared unfit for selection. The Indian pacer has not played any formula for international cricket since the ODI World Cup 2023 final against Australia. Well, Dubai transforms into a magical wonderland with Christmas festivities sparkling in the holiday lights. Despite being a desert, Dubai embraces the Christmas spirit with style, blending international holiday traditions with its own unique flair. Take a look.
We wish you a Merry Christmas. 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 We wish you a
And before we wrap up, a quick reminder, India's public broadcaster Prasar Bharati has recently launched Waves, entering the field of OTT platform. Waves provide a complete infotainment ecosystem to digital media and OTT audiences. If you also want great content for free, then download Waves today. Well, that's all for this edition of DD India Live. And let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Lipakshi Khurana from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India Live.